Flow writer and producer Matis Kaza has made known to when he was interviewed at the Locarno Film Festival, the 78th edition, as to how impactful the award-winning film, animated film, has made an impact on that nation in the northeastern Europe, and also has spoke about the number of films they have lined up soon to be released to the world to observe. And also, Abu Dhabi is so excited to announce the shooting of Dune 3 in their famous Liwa Oasis and famous sand dunes later this year. And last but not the least, the National Film Authority Board has made known their plan to drive the distribution growth of film in Ghana to 1% of the population. We'll be talking about all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African continent and the international scene. So, in this very episode, we'll be talking about Latvia. It was not, it was just this very early part of this year when the Oscar Awards was organized, and the films that were tipped, or the main film that was tipped to win the animated feature film category, was Inside Out 2, which was a very spectacular, film. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we had the surprise of our life when Latvia's film Flow won the animated feature, and this film happened to be a non-speaking film with just actions throughout this particular animated film. And it was quite an exciting time for the country of origin of this particular film, whose population numbers less than a million, 2 million, which apparently quite recently it was actually, I think somewhere around August 14th or 15th, the census brought up that the number of the population is around 1.8 million people. And not only was it a big win for them, but the filmmakers returned home to a hero's welcome. Well, one of the filmmakers of the Flow film, that is Matis Kaza, was recently found at the Locarno Film Festival, and he granted an interview as to how impactful the film has been on their nation. So let's take a look at this article published in the Hollywood Reporter, and this is what it has to say. Flow co-writer, producer on its impact on Latvia. Follow-up Limbo, co-directing I Love You, Lex Friedman. So this is quite a long article, so I won't read everything. But Matis Kaza discusses his Dream World studio and Trickster Pictures and movies beyond Flow. There's this other wonderful cinema to discover for everyone too, and this is written by George Cizalai. I hope I got the name right. So that is Matis in your short. Everyone loves the surprise Latvian Best Animated Feature Oscar winner Flow. The dialogue-free movie about a solitary cat's emotional journey has become a calling card for the country and its director and producer, Gints Zilbalodis. But Matis Kaza, his writing and production partner on Flow, is not resting on such laurels. The 29-year-old recently traveled to the 78th edition of the Locarno Film Festival for a quick visit to its Locarno Pro Industry strand to present what his Dream World studio and his Trickster Pictures have coming up, including the new feature animation from Zilbalodis called Limbo, as well I Love You, Lex Friedman, which he is directing himself together with actress and co-director Iveta Pohl. So let me just run through. After that, THR caught up with Kaza to hear about some of the many projects he's currently juggling the state of the Latvian film industry and the soft power of flow. Tell me a bit about your two companies and how busy they are right now. I work at two different studios which are in the same building. We have Dreamworld Studio, which is the animation studio, which is of course known for flow. It really only does Gints Zilbalodis films after it was founded basically for the production of flow. The other studio called Trickstar Pictures is where I do all the live action and documentary stuff. I'm working on a lot of projects. That's the thing about me and where Gints and I differ. He is a deep focused person who likes to concentrate on one project, one singular project. And I need 15 different projects at the same time in order to feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. I direct movies, I produce movies, I direct theater, I teach at the Latvian Academy of Culture, I write some of the films I work on, sometimes I write plays. So I do a lot of stuff at the same time, and that's the way my brain works. So this is where I wanted to focus on. So Locarno Pro featured you and others at a special Latvian film previews section. What projects did you present or talk about there? I was there with two projects on one we are still in pre-production, which is Limbo, the next animated film by Gints Zilbalodis that will be released in 2028. So there is still 3 years of production post for the film ahead of us. Just like with Gints' previous projects, this is also a film where the different stages of production are kind of happening at the same time. As Gints is doing the animatic, which is what he's working on right now, he's also writing the script and he's also composing hours and hours of music to test on the animatic. So everything is kind of simultaneous. All these different elements, which traditionally come in various stages, are being worked on at the same time. We are very excited about it. What we can share at this point is that it's going to be the first time when Gints is working with dialogue. So there are going to be some actors involved in the project. Gints is always taking on new challenges for himself, and there will be certain elements, just like with flow, where the production process and the state of mind of the director kind of resemble the storyline, the plot line, and the emotional through line of the film. What's important for us working on this project is for it to be another independent European animation. We are working together with the Sacre Bleu Productions, our French partners from Flow, right now. But the main thing is that we want for Gints to be able to keep his very unique process, and for us as the main producer to keep the rights to the final cut, because we have these conditions met. Gints can be comfortable working on the project, and he really needs to to feel safe about what he's doing. It has to be an experience where he has full control. Even I, as a producer, have the right to comment and give notes. But when we disagree, I always say to Gints, if you want to do it this way, you know best. So it's quite a lengthy article, and I would have loved to read everything, but let's keep it short this way because we have a lot to talk about. So yeah, Flow happened to be one animated film that changed the entire landscape of animation, and it is amazing how everybody was so sure that, or most people, I would say most people were sure that the Inside Out 2 would win, because Inside Out 2 is really an amazing animated film, very amazing. If you watch Inside Out 2, it is actually better than the one, which was also very good, So it was for most people possibly of the academy, since they are the voters, they thought this is a done deal till Flow entered into the race, and it changed everything. And the uniqueness of Flow, it is ability to convey its story without a single word being said. Everything was purely actions on the screen, as it Jenny's takes us on a journey with the main character, who is a cat, and ends up meeting certain animals, and they have to work together to survive in a flood prone world or area. So that was quite an interesting Oscar that won the award fair and square. And previously myself, when I heard, I mean, the Oscars and Flo had won, I wasn't sure why it had won. But when I watched both Inside Out 2, which honestly, it's a good movie. I mean, if Inside Out 2 had also won, I mean, it would have also been fabulous. I'll have no qualms about that. And but Flow won, and Flow is really indeed a good movie. And what this has done for the nation of Latvia is amazing. Just as I've been talking about on this platform, film is actually a cultural export, and it happens to be able to give people an idea as to what a country, the country of origin of what the where the film was made is about. Yes, in this film, definitely didn't reveal anything about Latvia, the nation itself. It's an animated film, and I don't know much about Latvia, but I can say that within the world of the film, it didn't really depict any physical Latvia landmark whatsoever. But regardless, it is indeed a good film, and you'll be surprised and amazed to know that this film, they spent just 3.5 million euros to make this film, and compared to the $200 million that was spent on the Inside Out 2, definitely their production processes are different, and there's a lot of voice actors and all a number of people involved in this particular project. So the scope is entirely different, and it's quite understandable. But for them to have used just this micro budget to craft this film and make it quite formidable to have won the Oscar, that is indeed an amazing feat that most most I think most people are certainly amazed about, because it's quite an interesting thing. Usually most often the conversations are always that the bigger the budget, the higher the production value. But sometimes it could also mean that regardless of the budget, you could still produce a good production value. That's not to say that is always a guarantee. Depending on the scope of a film that you are working on, the production value of the film could be clearly related to the production value of whatever film you are working on. And animation is quite an expensive craft, even sometimes ridiculously expensive, sometimes more than live action film. So it is quite understandable. And not only that, but this success is, when you think about how they achieved this, then it's quite amazing. Seeing the fact that they didn't have any customized kind of software for their production process. They relied solely on the free open source software Blender to get this production done, and that is quite an amazing feat. That is quite an amazing feat. And also, ever since they won the award, there's been a lot of tourists coming to Latvia to check out the nation of Latvia, because it won the award and brought the massive limelight attention to the nation, and that is quite an amazing thing. This award of Flow for the Flow animated film is doing for the nation. So it is quite an amazing feat they have achieved, and not only that, they literally they have a film industry that is not as prominent and as buoyant as we have in the US or other nations. And perhaps even literally, in an article that I read, Matters did say that they literally don't have an existing animation industry. So for them to have not even have this industry, and then came out of the dark and win this particular award, is quite amazing. I must say, it is quite a feat that is amazing. But the exciting thing about it is that it shows how dedicated these filmmakers are to their project. Currently, as it stands now, Gints, who is the director and co-producer to Matters on this particular project, is working on his second animated film. And just as he expressed, he works in two studios, the Dreamwell studio and the other one that is mainly meant for Gints production. So he is able to double between both worlds or both studios and create more films. But Gints is laser focused working on his film now, which amazingly will come in 3 years' time. That shows how dedicated this gentleman is on this project. And definitely, it looks like there is a possible Oscar-worthy production in the offering that he's working on. This time around, is going to involve some voice talents who would, definitely lend their voices to the animated characters in the film that he's working on. So it is quite an amazing feat. However, they are not receiving such amount of budget that they did for the first one. This one, which is I think titled Limbo, they are receiving 2 million euros for this production, and it's relatively lower compared to what they had in terms of 3.5 for Flow. So it is quite interesting, but it's a good grant that they have from the Latvian National Film Center. So the nation of Latvia itself is very proud of this production, and they are giving in all their support to ensure that this production works out well. And personally, I am excited when nations take interest in the productions of their people. And I'm happy that Latvia is doing this. And I'm sure their determination now is to ensure that a lot more productions or whatever productions come out of Latvia becomes an Academy Award worthy films to be able to boost the nation's pride as it has already done with this particular production of Flow. But not only is James Hadley at work on the production, but you also have Mattis also working on a number of productions. Some of the productions he's working on is a quirky mockumentary, I Love You, Lex Friedman, and it's directed by Kazabab. What they would do is that it's a documentary that they're on the road actually traveling to, I think, United States to meet a particular radio personality. If you get to know about the how they came about a story, that's quite interesting. Particularly the female actress it stars in. It happens that she wanted to be, I think, she traveled actually out of where she was from to another country with the hope of making it in the arts. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out well and ended up in the career services. And while she was there, she happened to be listening to this podcast, and it gave her an idea of which she pitched to Matters, and then that was history. And already they are working on this project, and for that project as well, it's going to come out. It's going to be done next year, and also hopefully come out in the same year. But what is exciting for me about this is the fact that they are doubling down to make sure they produce auteur-driven animations that could also make the necessary imprints that the first one did. And I think we need more animations of that nature that has the stamp and print of the directors involved, and to give it a different feeling from what we usually see in the market space or in the film or cinema space. So I mean, I am excited for what the next one that Gints is working on, and I don't definitely it's going to take some time because of how much work he has to put into it. But it's going to come in 2028, and I am quite hopeful that it's going to win a couple of awards, just as the first one has. The first one not just didn't win animated film for the Oscars, but also won for other prestigious awards. So let me know what you think. Do you think the one he's working on, James is working on currently with Matters, has the potential of replicating the success of Flow? Whatever your answers may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. So moving on from the Latvian success, let's now move to another exciting story. And it was just yesterday that I was talking about John Spades, who is the scribe of Dune 1 and 2, currently working on a script for with David Leitch to produce the film Gears of War, the video game Gears of War, to adapt it onto the silver screen for Netflix. Well, Abu Dhabi is so excited and they have announced that Dune 3 will be shooting in their nation come later this year. Apparently, it was scheduled to have shot in mid-July or mid-summer, and it didn't happen as planned. However, it's still on the way. The exact date has not been made known, but it is still on the way and will be shooting in mid, in later this year. Just as the previous ones were also some parts of the film were also shot in the Liwa Oasis in Abu Dhabi. So in this article, oh, pardon me, I think I have the wrong article. So in this article published in the Arab News, so it says that Dune Part 3 to film in Abu Dhabi later this year. And there is a screenshot of the film Dune 2. And that's quite a beautiful shot that has Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya in there. So it says that the Dune franchise is returning to Abu Dhabi for a third time. Dune Part 3, set to release in December 2026, will begin shooting in the UAE, pardon me, capital, later this year, according to the Abu Dhabi Film Commission. The sweeping dunes of Liwa Desert return to the big screen as filming begins in Abu Dhabi later this year for the next chapter in the Dune saga, the commission said on Instagram. So that is the Dune. So this is what they said. The sweeping dunes of Liwa Desert return to the big screen as filming begins in Abu Dhabi later this year for the next chapter in the Dune saga. Creative Media Authority and Abu Dhabi Film Commission will be providing essential logistical support, while Imagine Nation Art are serving as production partner. We look forward to welcoming Legendary back to Abu Dhabi. Yeah, so it is quite an interesting development. So Creative Media Authority and Abu Dhabi Film Commission will provide logistical support, while Abu Dhabi production company Imagination will be a production partner. Dune Part 3 marks the latest addition to a growing list of Hollywood blockbusters filmed in Abu Dhabi. F1, the movie, which spent over a month shooting in the Emirates in 2024, featured Brad Pitt in the lead role. Meanwhile, the Now You See Me, Now You Don't threequel, also shot in the city, is slated for a release later this year. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya reprised their roles in this latest installment. Jason Momoa has also confirmed he will return for Part 3 after featuring in the first Dune, but not appearing in Part 2. Last year, director Denis Villeneuve spoke about the film and said the next Dune installment will not be the completion of a trilogy in his eyes. First, it's important that people understand that for me, it was really a deep touch. Villeneuve said to Variety of the first two Dune movies, it was really a pair of movies that will be the adaptation of the first book. That's done and that's finished. If I do a third one, which is in the writing process, it's not like a trilogy. It's strange to say that, but if I go back there, it's to do something that feels different and has its own identity. So yeah, that is how excited the Abu Dhabi Film Commission is, and they've gone ahead to announce the production of the Dune 3, that is the Dune Messiah, in the Liwa Desert or the Liwa Oasis. So one of the exciting films, one of the best films perhaps in this last decade is Dune 2. And, everyone can attest to the fact that this film was well crafted and directed just as the first one did. And amazingly, this one, just as you had Inside Out 2 that I was talking about just a while ago, is also better than the first in the installment. And it is exciting to have such films. Denis Villeneuve is such an adept director to the extent that whatever films he directs, it lives off the page. Even though it is fantasy, it feels very reminiscent of what could possibly happen in this real world. And if you watch his film Arrival, every picture frame feels like this is real. This is actually happening in the real world. And that is the touch he brings to every film he directs. And I've always loved his films. And the amazing thing is that good enough, even though we would have hoped it was sooner, the Dune 3 will be releasing next year in December 2026. So it is quite exciting that, yes, the filming will still continue in this particular year, that is later this year. As to what we mean by later, I think it's going to be the last quarter, since we are already in the third quarter and it's almost done. So definitely we'll be seeing this film shooting. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be some snapshots that will be circulating on the internet for us to know what is happening and where it's happening. But for now, we know that a large chunk, just as they did, will be shot in the Liwa Desert later this year in Abu Dhabi of Dubai. And also, just as we spoke about how impactful Flow was on the nation and now definitely the economy of Latvia, with a lot of tourists going there, for Dubai, which is actually a tourist destination, it's actually a tourist country on its own, is already reaping the economic benefits of a lot of Hollywood films going out there to shoot. I know that a number of Hollywood people and some of the hotspots from film production in America may not be too excited about this, seeing that the jobs that could possibly go to them will be going to other nations. But sometimes it cannot be helped, particularly in the case of what's it called, Dune, where the director, just like Nolan to an extent, always preferred to shoot on real life locations. Definitely, he was going to also incorporate what's it called, the visual effects to enhance the images or the visuals. But for story like Dune, particularly when the Dune itself happens to be a very big character in the movie itself, as it's the whole place has to be. It's not just Dune, it's not just dunes or sand dunes, but also in the storyline, that's where they mine the spice, which is a valuable commodity in the nation of Arrakis. So it is quite an interesting twist, and it's good that that is happening. And not just that, you also had F1, the movie, also shoot in Dubai as well. That starred Brad Pitt, and then Now You See Me threequel also has shots in Dubai, and it's going to be released this year. So it has become a very hotspot destination. Even way back, it was still a destination where a lot of people or films went to shoot. I remember one of the Fast and Furious films did shoot in Dubai as well. So the economic benefits that Dubai is reaping is as a result that they've made that place and indeed a tourist destination of the world. It is one of the most visited countries ever in the world. So that is quite a blessing to them, as they are, it's also boosting their tourism, because just as Latvia's film Flow, which is even an animated film, has boosted tourism in Latvia, you can imagine what the films that have been shot on live locations have done for the economy of Dubai. So it is quite an amazing thing that film can do for a nation. And as usual, you know what this film is about. Having watched the first two films, it's going to follow in the same pattern of the third book, I think, the Dune Messiah. So that is the Frank Herbert's novels. So it's I think I know a lot have, personally, I'll be honest, I haven't read the books. I'm yet to, but a lot have said they are not so thrilled about the Dune Messiah. That's the third in the novel series. But I know that, knowing who Denis Villeneuve is, even the Blade Runner film that most people, some people were not happy with, I liked it so much because he is a filmmaker who knows how to craft a story well and hook you in. And for me, it did. I know for others, they may not have shared the same sentiment as I did watching the film. But throughout every film he's done so far, for all the films that I've watched, from Prisoners to Sicario and all that, he's able to craft a very believable story and strong plot line. So I cannot speak to on authority as to how good or not good the Dune Messiah book is or novel is, but I know that for every book that is adapted into a film, you have the creative freedom to make changes to make it work well or work well on screen. And I know that Denis Villeneuve, who himself is actually a writer, But not just that, but to have John Spates also, scribe or write this particular film, I know they will take some creative liberties to even make it much better than what the book is. And I think we have possibly an Oscar and a Best Picture worthy film on our hands, even though it's not shot yet. But that is one thing you can be rest assured of with Denis Villeneuve. And well, I know Dubai is quite excited about what they are doing, but let me know what you think about Dubai being not just a tourism destination, but also a global production hub where a lot of studios are trooping in there to shoot. Let me know your thoughts on it by leaving your comments in the comment section below. So now, globetrotting the world from first the Latvia in Europe to the Abu Dhabi in the Middle East. Now we come to my home country, Ghana, in Africa. And it wasn't long ago when a board of the NFA was put in place by the newly elected government. And they have already started putting up plans or making certain decisions to hopefully impact the film industry in Ghana. And the NFA, for those who may not know, stands for the National Film Authority, which is the governing body for the film industry in Ghana. And with that, there is an article published in the GH Movie Freak, on the GH Movie Freak website, and it reads that new NFA board targets 1% of Ghana's population to reignite film distribution and exhibition in Ghana. And it's written by Tony Ansakuma, one of Ghana's, I think currently he's Ghana's best movie critic, and is such an amazing, movie critic. So you can, this is a site, and you can go and check out more stories on his own personal YouTube channel. So this is a picture of the board, which also has in it the president of the NFA, and then also his head deputy. So that's Kafi Danku and Gardner, James Gardner. And in the midst of both of them is the chairman of the board, that is one of Ghana's astute and powerful filmmaker, Ivan Quashigah. So this is what he has to say. The newly inaugurated governing board of the National Film Authority, NFA, held its inaugural meeting on 19th August 2025 to set the course for the next phase of Ghana's film industry development. In his opening remarks, the board chairman, Mr. Ivan Quashigah, underscored the authority's renewed commitment to strengthen the film ecosystem with a strong focus on solving the long-standing challenges of distribution and exhibition of Ghanaian films. Mr. Quashigah noted that for the industry to grow and attract sustainable investment, it must be anchored on vibrant distribution channels and accessible exhibition platforms. He stated that the board has set a clear target to attract at least 1% of Ghana's population into consistent engagement with Ghanaian cinema, a milestone that would boost audience confidence and reinvigorate the value chain, from producers and distributors to investors and exhibitors. Our priority is to restore confidence in the Ghanaian film industry by ensuring that local content reaches audiences effectively. Distribution and exhibition are the lifeblood of the industry, and we are determined to create opportunities that make Ghanaian films accessible to every citizen, while positioning Ghana as a film hub in Africa, Mr. Quashigah affirmed. The inaugural meeting also emphasized the authority's responsibility to reassure both local and international stakeholders of its commitment to regulation, industry development, and international collaboration. The NFA board reaffirmed its mission to work with government, industry guilds, international partners, and private sector stakeholders to create a thriving, sustainable, and global competitive Ghanaian film industry. So present at the meeting were Kafui Danko Pitcher, the executive secretary of NFA, James Gardner, the deputy executive secretary of NFA, Mabel Kujo from the Ministry of Tourism and Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, and then Emmanuel Ofori from the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, Dr. Rebecca Ohene Asa from the Institute of Film and Television, Unimark, Augustinabe from the Film Producers Association of Ghana, George Bosompim from the Ghana Academy of Film and Television Arts, Aseye Tamaklo from the Women in Film and Television, Zakaria Abdullahi from the Collective Management Organization of Audiovisual Rights Owners, Rukiyatu Na Ayikali Ankra from the Film Distributors and Marketers Association of Ghana, Alejandro Peterson Davids White Cross from the Film Crew Association of Ghana, and Kofi Edinkra, the head of business development and marketing at the NFA. The National Film Authority calls on all industry players, investors, and partners to support this renewed direction as it works to build a dynamic distribution and exhibition ecosystem that will drive economic impact, cultural pride, and international recognition for Ghanaian cinema. And personally, I think this is a welcoming initiative by the NFA because prior to this, I know they've been working to, put things and systems in place, of which they did. They've created a number of opportunities or platforms where there's a lot of engagement when it comes to the film industry. And I think is the step in the right direction. Looking at the 1%, it would mean that perhaps the data that is available now has the film distribution market less than perhaps the number stated over there. And I think if my hope and my thoughts in this whole article is the fact that I think they are looking at a consistent 1% of the Ghanaian population who is actively engaged in the film distribution, consumption of films through the distribution platforms or outlets, be it the cinemas and the streaming platforms. So I think it's a step in the right direction because the film market is quite volatile, and it's a challenge where it's based or predicated on people's preference to a film. So a film could be good, but still may not attract the needed people to go to the cinema. And a film could not be as good as perhaps the film experts may see it to be or critics may see it to be, and yet the audience will want to go and watch it. So I think to have 1% of Ghana's population going, you are talking about approximately 347,000 people. It may look like a small number, but if you're looking at the population of Ghana, which is around 34, almost, I think, 35 million people, it indeed makes an impact of a sort. So the challenge here too also consists of the fact that there isn't much infrastructure available with regards to available cinemas or nationally recognized streaming platforms, if I should put it that way. So the 347,000 people that they are targeting, I think it's in the right, the right direction, seeing that perhaps this current board as we have it now only have, I think, barely 4 years to make this a possibility. So I think it's in the right direction. And let's even assume that all these 347,000 people that's going to the cinemas to watch on the opening night of a film, let's say 100 cities, and they are watching it at a go. With 100 cities, you are looking at somewhere around 3 million. No, you are looking around 34 million. 34.7 million Ghana cedis, which is indeed a good money for a film to break even, from on its opening weekend, hopefully into the second week. So I think it is still it's still quite small, but I think it's very very good in with regards to what they are planning. It's with the hope that this 347,000 people would be perhaps very consistent and very open to consume the content that NFA would help push to the market and the various platforms. So that is quite an interesting thing. And I like the fact that he's looking at restoring confidence in the Ghanaian market because whether you like it or not, the a number of films that have been produced locally have not been the very best. And even if it's the very best, the truth of the matter is that every film we produce here is contending with a film from outside the country, whether Nigeria or any African country or beyond the shores of the continent. So we are competing with our neighbors, Nigeria and others, but we're also competing with Hollywood, with Europe, with Korea, and all that. And even to make matters worse, we are also competing with social media where content is being produced on a daily basis, and some of them are interesting, and most often than not, they are literally next to nothing. They are free. All you need to do is to either buy your data, or if you are subscribed to the Netflixes or others, it's just a monthly subscription, and you have all month to watch different kinds of films. So if we are producing films locally and they are not up to par to the standard that can fiercely compete and entertain the audience, we are going to lose out. So my hope is that with the restoration of confidence, all filmmakers would actually help make that a possibility because it starts from the film itself being made. And I'm sure that just as they want to restore confidence in the marketplace, hopefully the infrastructure we put in place will be very accessible to a lot of people. Most of the properly, organized infrastructures or places or cinema to speak are based in the major capital cities of Ghana. So you are talking about Accra and also Kumasi. And that is quite a challenge. I'm sure there will be some in other regions of Ghana, but some other regions barely have anything. They don't have anything. And even the regions who don't have any cinemas, properly organized cinemas, are more than the ones that have it. So it is quite a challenge. And also the price points could be a challenge. And that's no fault of distributors or the filmmakers because they have to make their money's worth. And also there's going to be a percentage split between the distributors and the filmmakers. So there are so many challenges and uphill battle the board of NFA have to surmount in order to make this work. And that is quite a challenge. And I think the idea is to focus on how this particular 1% target would benefit all stakeholders involved, from distributors, producers, exhibitors, and that is something that is very necessary. But I think also the challenge would be is to have properly organized data that points to which areas are troubling that needs the attention of the board the most, because this is where the challenge lies. As to what genre of films actually bodes well with the audience, I don't think we really know that. As to what genre, as to what kind of yes, I know in Ghana a lot of films we like the comedies and stuff, but also romantic and also supernatural myth. But there is no, maybe there is, but to the best of my knowledge, I haven't come upon such data that provides the number of people who watch a particular film during the theatrical window of that film, and a whole lot of other stuff. So I've always said that we need to put the necessary structures in place. The three things I always talk about is to make sure the government policies are not just implemented but enforced, and also infrastructure are put in place. Just as I think some time back, Fred Nuama, I think the organizer of Ghana Movie Awards, did speak that should there be a cinema in each constituency in Ghana. You're talking about over 270 well properly multiplexes of cinemas all over Ghana. And that would have been very amazing because that would mean that when a movie is released in an opening weekend, there's a great likelihood for that movie to break even and possibly make profit in the second or third week. And we currently, just as we see from the West, I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a challenge of not having a properly organized theatrical window. Pre-pandemic, the theatrical window of the West, particularly in US, was 90 days. Post-pandemic, because of how viewers' habits had changed over the years, it was shrunk to half the time, which is 45 days. They are currently reviewing it to see if they can push it back. So certain films actually stays in the cinema quite longer than the other. So these are things that we don't have in place currently here, and it doesn't help the industry as it's supposed to. So there's a lot that has to be put in place. And honestly, I think the board alone can do that. I'm glad that there's a lot of representation of all the industry players or most of the industry players on the board. But the very people in the different segments ought to all put their shoulders together to help make this a reality. Because when the industry works, it benefits us all. The last thing I will say before I bring this particular episode to an end is that I like this is the direction we are taking this in. But I always would say that it is not enough. After this, one of the things we need to fight for, I like what Mr. Ivan Quashigah said in a statement that they are also going to make sure that international collaborations work well in their tenure. And my hope is this, that in terms of international collaboration, we should look at a continental marketplace for films in Africa. If we do not have a big market size like that of Africa, I think we'll be losing out more than benefiting. Yes, we start at the national level, but beyond that, we should move on from the national level to the regional level. And by regional, I'm talking about West Africa, and then move on from West Africa to Africa, because until we have an integrated film market, we cannot compete with the West, and we'll always not be able to make good movies with big budgets to be able to boost up the production value on a scale that would compete with the likes of films from the West. And that is indeed a challenge. But I think this is a good revolutionary data-driven approach that they are embarking on. And I think they need all our support to make this happen, not just for Ghana, because if it works well in Ghana, I'm sure other nations will emulate, and in turn, it will benefit everybody. So let me know what you think about this particular 1% target of the population that the board of NFA is trying to help, put, the film content to. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And also soon, I've realized that all these three stories actually are helping shape the film landscape the way it ought to be, from a nation which was literally not known for films, winning an Oscar in the animated feature flow, to Dubai being not just a tourism destination, but now becoming a hot spot for filmmaking in the Middle East, and to Ghana's revolution of the film industry that is happening now with a target focusing on distribution. I think all this is helping to, redefine the soft cinematic power that the world is beginning to see coming from places that was initially not regarded as such. So let me know what you think by leaving your thoughts in the comment section below, and then I'll respond to them. So all too soon, I've come to an end to this particular episode. I thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'll be coming your way again with another exciting episode tomorrow. And all too soon, I have to bring this to a close. My name is Papa Otu, and I'll see you tomorrow.